Okay, so very good morning to you all. Thank you for joining in today and welcome to the 20th session of our essential wisdom or practical wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita, where we've been looking at the following shlokas, which are the essential shlokas of the Bhagavad Gita in terms of the topics. So last week we completed Bhakti Yoga, and today we will be doing Sannyasa Yoga. And it'll have a surprise for you when we do Sannyasa Yoga. And then we'll also have a little discussion around Gayatri Mantra. And that's the plan that we have for today. So coming to Sannyasa Yoga, there are 5 shlokas, which we will obviously complete today itself. And we will look at what these 5 shlokas are. So the 5 shlokas are Shloka 5 to 526. These are from the 5th chapter. And then there are 3 shlokas from the 13th chapter. Now you would realize that these are not exactly chapters on Sannyasa Yoga. So the 5th chapter is called Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. And the 13th chapter is called Kshetra Kshetragya Vibhaga Yoga. So if at all the word sannyasa is there anywhere, it is only there in the 5th chapter, but it is linked with jnana and karma because the chapter name is Jnana Karma Sannyasa Yoga. So that being said, there are no separate chapters on Sannyasa Yoga. And of course, we need to understand what the Bhagavad Gita means by Sannyasa Yoga. It's not necessarily our own popular definition of sannyasa. So we come to the first shloka in terms of its meaning. So here we go with respect to the first of the 5 shlokas. So this is, of course, how the response is to a question asked by Arjuna in the 5th chapter. So the question asked by Arjuna in the 5th chapter is like this, and I will recite that just as an introduction to this answer. Of course, all the Gita is the response of Krishna. There are 80% of the shlokas which are obviously from Krishna himself. So Arjuna asks, and this is not this shloka, it's the first shloka of the 5th chapter, which says, Sannyasam karmanam Krishna punar yogam cha shamsasi yetcheya etayor ekam tanme bruhi sunishtitam, which basically means that on one hand you are praising karma, on the other hand you are praising jnana, and Arjuna takes the praising of jnana to be the praising of sannyasa. So you praise renunciation of action of Krishna and also the yoga of action. You cannot be praising both. So tell me one which is better. And the response is our first shloka of Sannyasa Yoga, where we say, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Sannyasaha Karma Yogascha Nishreya Sakarabhubhau Tayostu Karma Sannyasat Karma Yogo Vishishyate. So what does this mean? It means this, when we look at the Anvaya, Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Sannyasaha Karma Yoga. So he's contrasting Sannyasaha and Karma Yoga. Cha, Ubhau. Ubhau means both. Nishreya Sakarau, that is, both of them bring the best. Nishreya is a phrase that is used for the best or your benefit or your prosperity. And both of them give you prosperity. Both of them give you what is good for human life. Okay. Then further he says, Tayo, that is, Tayo is a word of comparison, between the two. Tayo tu, indeed, karma sannyasat, karma yoga vishishyate. So, which is better as compared to the renunciation of action? The performance of action is better. So there's a very clear indication here from Lord Krishna that sannyasa is actually not to be the first line of action. And while sannyasa has got its benefits, indeed, India has a huge tradition of sannyasa and monks and yogis. But between the two, it is better to actually perform our karma yoga rather than renounce, though both of them will give the same result. Now, the context of this particular surprising definition, where one might normally assume that given the very strong Indian tradition of monks and swamis and yogis, uh, there would be a recommendation by Krishna that sannyasa is indeed better, but he says the contrary. Now, the context of this particular shloka lies in the fact that Buddhism, when it was very popular in India, straightaway advocated the life of bhikshu. A bhikshu is a sannyasi or a monk. And at that point in time, there were thousands and thousands of young men who were turning to sannyasa, upsetting the general economic and military well-being of society. And that is not in the Hindu order of things. In the Hindu order of things, very clearly, you have a four ashram system, which is brahmacharya, where you study, that is deemed to be for about 20 to 25 years. Then you have grahastha ashram. In the grahastha ashram, that is where you pursue your profession, which could be anything that society deems important. And then you have obviously, the vanaprastha, which is when you withdraw from active life, but still continue to guide society, and sannyasa, which is towards the end of your tenure of around 100 years, that being the traditional duration of life, that you take up sannyasa. So Buddha had reversed this and had actually put sannyasa as a prime. So it was brahmacharya, or maybe just straight away sannyasa, because they were young monks who were ordained and they continued an entire life of sannyasa. And therefore, the question is very relevant in the context of the socio economic background. Then, of course, the Bhagavad Gita was composed much, much before the advent of Buddha, but nevertheless, it is deemed to anticipate this one-sided direction of society and says very clearly that karma yoga is more important than actually sannyasa yoga. Then the question would arise very logically that what do we mean by sannyasa yoga if indeed the very first shloka that we have here is indicating that karma yoga is important, then why call this segment and this theme sannyasa yoga? So for that, the answer would lie in the next shloka, which now this shloka is a hardcore sannyasa yoga. That is when you have totally abandoned your ashrama, you have gone beyond grahastha, or you have taken sannyasa at a very young age. What is expected of you is what is mentioned here. So these are two contrasts. So what happens is kama krodha viyuktanam. Of course, the shloka would be like this. Kama krodha, I'm looking at the second row. Kama krodha viyuktanam yatinam yata chetasam abhito brahma nirvanam vartate viditatmana. Now this is the shloka, and the anvaya of this is kama krodha viyuktanam yata chetasam vidita atmanam yatinam abhita brahma nirvanam vartate. Now what does this mean? So the true sannyasi and the authentic sannyasi is one who is kama krodha viyuktanam, who is delivered, viyukta, that is separated from kama and krodha. Yata chetasam, yata is to control, and chetasam is your mind and your internal antahkaran. So yata chetasam is one who has got control or mastery over his antahkaran, which in English is here translated as yata chetasam. Then what is the third characteristic of a true sannyasi? Vidita atmanam. He has got knowledge of the atma with him. What is this atma? Where is it? How to realize it? These are all things that very clearly the sannyasi knows. And that person is someone who has practiced self-mastery and yoga, abhitaha, all around, in the sense that at all points in time, he is in that state, and that state is called Brahma Nirvanam. That is, he is totally liberated from the pushes and pulls that would happen, and therefore is deemed to be totally in sannyasa or sannyasa yoga. Now I'm going to, so this obviously, gives a very, very clear picture of what is to be expected or what is to be thought when you are in total sannyasa. Now, there is a very interesting quote that I would like to share with you. And this is a quote from Ramana Maharshi, who was one of the great sages of the 20th century. So he says that he who is active in the world and yet remains desireless and remembers his own essential nature is a better sannyasi than one who wears a ochre robe or dress and says that he has renounced the world. So this is a summary of, in fact, the first and the second shloka, which is obviously a little logical. So it is more a matter of attitude than a matter of function. And therefore, you can be active in the world and yet remain desireless and remember your essential nature. So you can be a Vidita Atmanam, you can be a Kama Krodha Yuktanam, and you can be obviously someone who remembers your own nature, Vidita Atmanam, as I said, than someone who wears a dress. So in other words, the dress that you wear and the name that you are given, either a Swami Atmananda or Swami whatever is the sannyasa name that you're given, is not important. It is your attitude which is important. And therefore, in the words of Ramana Maharshi, you can be as active in the world with an attitude of sannyasa rather than actually give up. So economic activity need not be given up. Family life need not be given up. What is required to be given up is obviously kama krodha yuktanam, and therefore when you become an instrument of the Lord, then whatever you do is aligned to the benefit of people, and whenever it is aligned to the benefit of people, your personal likes and desires do not kick in, and therefore you are deemed to be as good as a sannyasi who is of course away from the world and who is perhaps bound by certain vows of brahmacharya and begging for food, at least in the ancient times. So the question is, what are these set of qualities which define a sannyasi rather than the outer behavior and the outer sort of symbols of sannyasa, which is monkhood? So that is what we will be looking at in the next three shlokas, which in fact form a unit that we can actually read together. So amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, shanti, arjavam, acharyopasanam, shaucham, sthairyam, atma, vinigraha. So these are all independent qualities. So amanitvam is absence of pride. Adambitvam is absence of arrogance. Ahimsa is harmlessness, that is not deliberately harming people. Arjavam is candidness, straightforwardness. Kshanti is to be benign, to be beneficial to people. Shaucham is purity of mind and body. Sthairyam is tranquil firmness and steadfastness. Then Atma Vinigraha is self-control and a masterful garment of the lower nature. Acharya Upasanam. So Acharya Upasanam is Acharya Upasanam, which is the worship of the teacher. Now, when we say worship of the teacher, it is worship of the teachings of the teacher and not necessarily the worship of the teacher as a physical entity. The teacher is always an important figure, but the teaching of the teacher is what is going to make a difference in your own spiritual evolution and not the physical presence of the teacher. Though there are some teachers, very great yogis and munis, whose sheer physical presence makes a difference to you and their grace can descend on you. But such teachers are rare, and therefore the teaching that they bestow on us is what we have to take ahead. In fact, the entire Bhagavad Gita is the teaching, and therefore, you see, praying to the figure of Krishna is not as important as following the teachings of Krishna, which is what we have been trying to do in these lessons here. It is not about the bhakti cult of Krishna or the bhakti cult of any figure. So Acharya Pasanam is not to be interpreted as the physical. Of course, when you are in the presence of a great teacher, it is not that you will disrespect them, but the greatest respect that can be bestowed to a teacher is in terms of the absorption of the teaching and the practice of the teaching. So these are examples of someone who is grounded in the attitude of a sannyasi, but of course could be a karma yogi, could be a jnana yogi, could be a bhakti yogi. But these attitudes are what define and indicate to us that you have the attitude of renunciation. So this is the first of the three shlokas. The second one in terms of attitude is Indriya artheshu vairagyam anahankara evacha janma mrityu jaravyadi dukkha doshanudarshanam. So the second set of qualities of someone who has sannyasa is Indriya artheshu vairagyam. So Indriya, we understand, Indriya are the Jnanendriya and the Karmendriyas. The Jnanendriyas are our senses of perception, and the Karmendriyas are our organs of action. So Indriya Artheshu Vairagyam. So obviously there will be an Indriya Artha, that is the object of the sense, which we have discussed earlier. So the object of the sense of sight is color, because unless there is color distinguishing the world around us, the sense of sight would not operate. In the same way, if you look at the sense of hearing, unless there is sound, the sense of hearing would not operate. So sound, touch, color, taste, and odor are the objects, indriya artha, for the indriyas. So indriya and the object of indriyas. Vairagyam. Vairagya means you have a balanced view. So if there is something interesting, well and good. If there's something uninteresting, also well and good, and you have no particular attraction or repulsion to the object of the senses, which is a very useful way, because unless you shut yourself up in the cave, you cannot avoid the inputs that come to you from the world, and the inputs come to you from the world through your five senses, and they come to you in the form of sound, touch, color, taste, and odor. But obviously, you have a vairagyam. So you may see something which is very pleasant, you may see something which is unpleasant, but then you are not sort of dislodged by that. You're not imbalanced by that. Anahankara. Anahankara is obviously radical freedom from egoism. So you always are nimitta matram. Nimitta matram means you are an instrument of the Lord. And if you think that your ahamkara, I am doing this, then that is very incorrect. And obviously a person with an attitude of sannyasa is never someone who says that maine ye kiya, maine wo kiya. Everything is a manifestation of the Supreme, whose will is being done through you. Unki hi chalti hai aapke zariye, as they would say in Hindi. Then here is a very interesting sort of statement, which for a grahastha may be a little radical. So, janma mrityu jara vyadhi. Okay, no, not this one. This is in the next one. So, janma mrityu jara vyadhi is, you understand that there is janma, there is mrityu, there is jara. Jara is old age. Vyadhi is illness. Dukkha dosha anudarshanam. Yeah, and there is dukkha, and therefore you understand that this is the way of human life. Today I can be good, tomorrow I may have some illness, day after tomorrow I'll be better, and there is this up and down that happens in human life, which all of us, obviously at the stage of life that we are in, we are fully aware of this. And this is also an important aspect of the entire attitude of sannyasa. You must have often observed that when it is hot or when it's summertime, people will wish for winter. When it is winter, people will wish for summer. When it is rain, people will wish for dry weather. When it is drought, then they will wish for rain. So there is no limit to the unhappiness that you can have with the situation around you. But this is understanding that janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi, dukkha, dosha, anudarshanam. So this is the dosha of human life. You will have birth, you will have death, you will have old age, you will have illness. And we have to take it in our stride, because you have a keen understanding that this is the nature of human life. And such an attitude does not demand that you have to be a sannyasi in the traditional sense of the word. It simply demands that you be a wise person in the very, very complete sense of the word. So that's 3.9 for us. And here we have, so this is where I was saying that we have a slightly radical statement when it comes to us grahasthas. Putra dara graha adishu asaktah, which means that we must be a little, unattached to family ties. That is, son is putra, dara is wife, graha is home, Adishu, etc., Adishus, etc., asakti. So we need to have a degree of kind of dispassion. So in other words, we have grown our children up, we've got them married off. After that, we cannot have too much of affection for them because they got to live their own lives or interfere with them, is one way of looking at it. And of course, we have our spouses, we need to obviously live with them. We need to be balanced in our approach, and we would have, of course, grown over our, traditional younger age attitudes, and therefore we need to have a degree of dispassion as we mature in the path of being a sannyasi while being a grahastha. Anabhishvanga, so absence of clinging to attachment and absorption of family ties of son, wife, and home, so on. Ishtam, anishtam, uppapattishu. So you would have heard me use the phrase ishtam, anishtam, mishram with respect to karma yoga. So you get ishta results, anishta results, which is exactly opposite. Ishta is what you want, anishta is what you want, and mishram is mixed. So this whole business of ishtam, anishtam, uppapattishu, nityam, samachittatvam. So whenever you have ishta and anishta, in fact, this is a very, very strong statement in favor of karma yoga. Correct. So the first one is defining the attitude with respect to your relations around you. And obviously, putra gara grihadishu is a statement that is not going to be made for someone who is an actual monk. It is going to be made for someone who is obviously a grihastha, and says that be balanced in your attitude towards your family and be balanced in your work. Ishtam and ishtam uppapattishu, when they get generated, nityam, be stable, samachittatvam, be balanced. So this is what we have in terms of the entire 5 shlokas. Of course, I will take up the discussion on Gayatri Mantra a little later, but I'm going to stop the presentation here. And you would have noticed that this is the shortest exposition that you have, because it is simply a question of a number of attitudes that we're talking about. And let's have a discussion on these 5 shlokas before we take up some thought process on the Gayatri Mantra. So open up for questions from Rajesh, Sunil, and Sunil. Yeah. Sunil and Sunil. So maybe we can begin with Rajesh. So Rajesh, your thoughts? Yes.
Shall I ask?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
So, today, sannyasi's definition has been very excellently explained. He has to acquire the virtues of the mind and body rather than renunciation of work. And in Karma Yogi, he has to do the work without attaching to the results and various things in the Karma Yoga we have done. So is there any person who is sannyasi as well as Karma Yogi? Both qualities one can acquire, number 1 point. And number 2 point is ki Kam Krodh. So I've seen the breath meaning, it is converting anger into action. But Kam mein Vasna se samajhte the, which is true. Only this. Kam ka matlab Vasna.
Yeah, so Kama Vasna is, so Kama Vasna is also something which is very difficult to control, because that is the reason why you have a number of people who society labels as gurus, but if you look at their behavior in personal life, you would find that there are a lot of errors they commit in terms of behavior when it comes to the opposite gender. And we have a number of those cases. So to have a degree of control, so it is greater hypocrisy to call yourself a sannyasi and go and indulge in a whole load of sexual behavior, rather than to be a grihastha and say, "Bhai, I'm a grihasthi and I am where I am," and handle that with wisdom, rather than say that I am totally above all this and then go and behave in an incorrect manner. Okay, so let me turn to Sunil ji for his thoughts on today's shlokas, or his ability to summarize today's shlokas.
Maybe पहले तो 5.2 में हम ये सीख रहे हैं कि उन्होंने सब कुछ जो हम त्यागने की बात करते हैं वर्सेस एक्चुअली अपने जीवन में कर्म करने की बात करते हैं, तो उसमें जब आपस में कंट्रास्ट किया गया है तो उन्होंने क्लियरली कर्मयोग को उससे बेटर बताया, ऑल्दो दोनों जो है सुप्रीम पावर से कनेक्ट की मेथड्स बताए गए हैं। बट उसके बाद जब हम 5.26 की बात करते हैं तो जो छोड़ना है वो काम और क्रोध जो छोड़ने, मतलब डिजायर और एंगर को छोड़ने की बात कही है, और जो पाना है उसके लिए मतलब माइंड को बैलेंस करना है और अपने अपने बारे में जानना, नॉलेज ऑफ सेल्फ की बात की गई है। और मतलब जैसे आप फील ऐसा करते रहे जैसे आप निर्वाण की स्थिति में हैं, ब्रह्म निर्वाण की बात की गई है उसको। और उसके बाद कहा गया 13.8 में कि हमें अब यहाँ पर भी एब्सेंस ऑफ प्राइड और एरोगेंस की बात की गई है। प्राइड मतलब जो ईगो वाला प्राइड होता है, और प्रेजेंस ऑफ हार्मलेसनेस, ये बिल्कुल क्लियरली डिफाइन की गई है प्रॉपर्टीज। हार्मलेसनेस, कैंडिडनेस, टॉलरेंस, बिनाइननेस, पीस, स्टेडीनेस, सेल्फ कंट्रोल, ये डिफाइन की गई है प्रॉपर्टीज। और फिर कहा गया है कि भाई ठीक है, टीचिंग्स को फॉलो करते रहो कम से कम। मतलब आप ये नहीं कि आप सन्यास ले लो तो, और जैसे वो उन्होंने रमन योगी की बात कही कि आप नॉर्मल लाइफ में रह के भी अपने सन्यास योग जैसा बर्ताव कर सकते हो, आप अपने मतलब इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी जैसे राज ने बताया। और एक चीज बहुत अच्छी 13.9 में कही गई कि ये जो सेंस ऑर्गन्स का अट्रैक्शन होता है, ये रिमूव करने के लिए एफर्ट लगता है, इसमें एफर्ट करना पड़ेगा, मतलब कॉन्शियसली एफर्ट करना पड़ेगा। और फिर आगे आगे प्रॉपर्टी अहम भाव जो इगोइज्म है उसको रिमूव करने की बात है। और एक और बात कही गई, डिमांड ऑफ राइट्स ड्यू टू ईगो, मतलब हम लोग जो है अपने अहम के कारण मैंने ये करा तो उसकी वजह से हम अपने अधिकार मांगते हैं अक्सर, तो उस अधिकार मांगने को भी कहा गया है कि वो सन्यास जैसा नहीं है। और उसके बाद ये भी बात कही गई है उसमें 13.9 में, बहुत इनफैक्ट श्लोक एक ही है पर बातें बहुत सारी कही गई हैं कि इसमें हमें केयरफुली समझना है सन्यास योग के लिए कि बर्थ, डेथ, डिजीज और ओल्ड एज, ये बात कुछ कुछ मुझे बुद्धिज्म से मैच करती हुई लगती है। बुद्धा ने भी यही टीच किया है और वो उससे मैच करती हुई भी बात लगती है मुझे ये। और उसके बाद
Yes. Just one point. In fact, Jara Vyadi Dukkhan Dosharam, in 1/2 shloka, you have covered entire Buddhism.
Yes. ये इसीलिए मैंने बुद्धिज्म का नाम लिया है यहाँ पर। राइट। और उसके बाद मतलब फैमिली से अब डिटैचमेंट की बात भी कही गई है। उसके बाद ये लंपट ना होना, मुझे तो अर्थ ये लगा उसका कि नॉट टू चीट, मतलब आप चीटर नहीं बने। और लाइक्स और डिसलाइक्स के बीच में बैलेंस बनाने की, ईस्ट अनिष्ट की जो बात हम करते हैं, तो हमेशा मतलब ऐसा नहीं कि उससे मतलब हमारा ये भरा हो जाएगा बुरा हो जाएगा, इसके बीच में फंसे रहें, उसके बीच में भी हमें बैलेंस बनाने की बात कही गई है। ये मुझे समरी लगी। बट एक चीज मुझे छोटी सी पूछनी भी है इसमें कि क्या मतलब ऐसा लगता है कि गीता एक्चुअली सन्यास योग को ज्यादा प्रमोट नहीं करती है, गुड क्वालिटीज ऑफ सन्यास योग पिक करती है।
करेक्ट, एब्सोल्युटली। तो इसीलिए जब लोग कहते हैं अरे भाई आप छोटे लोगों को, आई मीन नॉट टू यू गाइस बट यू नो सिंस आई कीप ट्राइंग टू पॉपुलराइज द भगवद गीता अमंग यंगर पीपल, वो लोग सन्यासी बन जाएंगे। It is never ever the intention of the Bhagavad Gita to make anybody forcibly into renouncing action. You have to look at what is your nature, what is your station in life. If your station in life is as a student, it's a do your job well with mind control. Don't allow your mind to run here and there. That's exactly what it says. So it does not recommend, because the Bhagavad Gita is such a practical manual. So for one who has to do sannyas, usko sannyas jana hi hai. जिसको भाई गृहस्थ आश्रम में रहना है, you should do it properly. So it tells you how to do things properly in whichever position you are. So you have to have mind control. You should have balanced mind, samachitvam. You should always be striving for benefiting others, loka sangraham. All these attitudes are what it is trying to inculcate. It is never telling people. So anybody who takes the Bhagavad Gita to mean sannyasa, just because a lot of sannyasis have written commentaries, our problem lies only here. Only sannyasis have written commentaries and not grihasthas. So, you know, more and more grihasthas will have to show their association with the Gita, saying that it has inspired them. Only then will the next generation understand Just like Sunilji very correctly pointed out, because it is incorrect to assume that Bhagavad Gita says sannyasa. Even if you look at the announcement that I made today, I'm sure half of our batchmates did not come because they think sannyasa is Rajshekhar is recommending कि हम लोग सब सन्यासी बन जाए.
नहीं, मुझे एक लाइन में ये समझ में आया राज आपसे बहुत सारे इंटरेक्शन में कि एक स्किलफुल आदमी जब अपने एक्शन लेने में कंफ्यूज हो जाता है तो उसका कॉन्शियसनेस, जिसको मैं कृष्णा बोल रहा हूँ, उसके कॉन्शियसनेस उसको कैसे गाइड कर रहा है. दिस इज ऑल अबाउट गीता. कि जब हम स्किल के होने के बावजूद भी अपने एक्शन लेने में कंफ्यूज हैं तो उस गाइडेंस में वो सारे कैसे गुण आते हैं उनकी बात डिस्कस की गई है. तो वन ऑफ देम इज क्वालिटीज ऑफ ए सन्यासी आल्सो, जो कि हमें एक्शन लेने के दौरान भी हम सीख सकते हैं.
So the skillful man forgets his nature. His nature is having Krishna as consciousness. If you forget that, then you stop getting guidance and you get confused. So all the Bhagavad Gita says, bhai, that is wherever you find Krishna, you will find that there is excellence in action. That is exactly what the Gita says. Don't forget the Krishna within you, and you will be guided by the consciousness. Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, Yatra Partho Dhanurdaraha, Tatra Shri Vijayo Bhutir, Dhruva Nitir Matir Mama. Yes, this last shloka of the Bhagavad Gita actually says everything. Otherwise, why should he say Dhanurdara? Dhanurdara means a person of action. So if the Bhagavad Gita were indeed a manual for sannyasa, then he should very clearly say that Yatra Yogeshwara Krishno, Yatra Partho Sannyasi. He's not saying Yatra Partho Sannyasi. He's saying Yatra Partho Dhanurdara. So action is what is demanded, and therefore the attitude, as you said very clearly, it is the attitude that makes a difference. And that is something that we keep learning in our modern seminars or self-development. वो तो बहुत कुछ है, attitude बोलते हैं, लेकिन क्या है attitude? That's what the Gita says very clearly.
एटीट्यूड के लिए क्या संस्कृत वर्ड है राज?
Attitude के लिए कोई complete Sanskrit word नहीं है, but then I think the word that is normally used is vichara dharana, the flow of thought.
Vaya can be said. What is the vaya in Urdu?
Yeah, it's the same. Okay. So let me turn then to Sunil Rastogi.
Yeah, I think after summarization of Sunil Jigar, nothing required any addition. No addition is required.
Okay. Fine. And I think there are a few questions asked by Deepak, which I think I saw in the chat. So he has said, please clarify titiksha, purity of mind. Okay, let me do that. Then I cannot understand what he has said after that, but let me first clarify. So titiksha is having the patience to put up with the things that life is sending you. It is patience, it is forbearance. The actual shloka where we have titiksha is matra sparshasthu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agama payino nitya tan titikshasva bharata. So this is shloka 15 of chapter 2. So titiksha karo, क्योंकि जो गर्मी है, सर्दी है, ऊंच है, नीच है, सुख है, दुख है, ये आते रहेगा. So you have to bear up with that because it is in the nature of things that you will have these coming one after the other. So if I have winter season today, I will have summer tomorrow. If I have happiness today, I'm likely to have something of unhappiness. So the bear up with the cyclical change is called titiksha. Are you okay with that, Deepak?
Yeah. Okay.
So attitude of bearing up with the opposites is called titiksha. Okay, then I think you asked about what is mental purity. Mental purity is, of course, not having evil desires. That is the first thing. दूसरों का himsa chahana is an obviously incorrect thing to have. So the first thing is respect for others. So a whole load of qualities that you have. In fact, if you look at shloka 13.8, 9, and 10, as well as 11 and 12. 11 and 12 are also actually in the same sequence, though I have not put them in. All of them are qualities which you can get only when you have purity of mind. And purity of mind simply means that you have chanted the Gayatri Mantra and you have kind of figured out, or you have understood the Gita, or that you have understood the true nature, that our mind is always in a state of agitation. And therefore, I need to be a little more calm-minded. In fact, I was having a discussion with Rajesh while you were all joining in. So Rajesh made a very interesting comment that we must have a warm heart and cool mind. So having a cool mind is like having a mind which is clear. So it is like saying that if you have a pond where there's a lot of mud, then, if all the mud settles down, then you have a clear pond. You are able to see. So we have a lot of negative qualities in our mind. So some negative, we may have a lot of anger, we may have a lot of jealousy, we may have a lot of other things. So Deepak, if you could just repeat the third question you had.
थर्ड क्वेश्चन हिंदी वर्जन मुझे याद है। निम्न प्रकृति पर प्रभुता के साथ शासन, ये 13.8 में था मेंशन। निम्न प्रकृति पर प्रभुता के साथ शासन।
Oh, so that was in the translation, right? So you picked it up from the Hindi translation, obviously.
Yeah. I think it is in 13.8.
Okay. Yeah, got you. I'm just going to pull out the shloka, 1 minute, and here we are. So share. Okay, so let us see where we find this. Dayalu, सांसारिक अभिमान और दम का सर्वथा अभाव, किसी को हानि ना पहुंचाना, क्षमा, तितीक्षा और दयालु हृदय, सरल निष्पाप स्वभाव, मन और शरीर की पवित्रता, शांत, दृढ़ता और स्थिरता, आत्म संयम और निम्न प्रकृति पर प्रभुता के साथ शासन. Okay, so निम्न प्रकृति. Now this actually means Antaryami Bhagwan. I think it's a translation of Atma Vinigraha, self-control and masterful government of lower nature. So Nimna Prakriti is lower nature. So we have a lower nature, animal nature within us. वो हमारी निम्न प्रकृति है, निम्न and उच्च. निम्न प्रकृति पर प्रभुता के साथ, प्रभुता means with control, के साथ शासन. So that's what it means. So this निम्न प्रकृति पर प्रभुता के साथ शासन is a Hindi translation of Atma Vinigraha, which in English is self-control and masterful government of lower nature. Masterful government को इन्होंने हिंदी में प्रभुता बताया. So are you okay with that understanding?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me end the share here. Okay. And
क्या ये सिर्फ सेल्फ कंट्रोल की बात है? बेसिकली सेल्फ कंट्रोल की बात है.
सेल्फ कंट्रोल
जो हमारे मतलब एनिमल नेचर है, जो हमारा एनिमल लाइक नेचर है, उस पर सेल्फ कंट्रोल, बिकॉज एनिमल्स को उतना सेल्फ कंट्रोल नहीं होता है. हम लोग ह्यूमन बीइंग्स हैं, तो हमको सेल्फ कंट्रोल करना चाहिए, उसकी बात है.
करेक्ट, एब्सोल्युटली. And it should be with prabhuta, it should be with full strength, not just half-hearted.
हाँ. वो एक्चुअली ट्रांसलेशन जो है थोड़ा सा ट्रांसलेशन थोड़ा कंफ्यूजिंग हो जाता है उस तरह से.
Correct. See, the thing is that, these are all, when I put together all this, then sometimes I choose from Aurobindo's, translation. So Aurobindo writes complicated English, and when his complicated English gets translated into Hindi, it gets more complicated.
Yes. Yes.
So it is not a straightforward translation. So there's a double complication. So with that, what I will do is I will move on to looking at.
In fact, the Sanskrit version is clear. Atma Vinigraha is much more clear.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we should go. No, but then the thing is that when we have these complicated Hindi translations, it makes us think, and therefore it adds to some value, but it should not add to confusion. Definitely, right. That's the objective. Okay. Now let me do a share screen of just the two slides I have on the Gayatri Mantra. But of course, I have with me many books. Okay. So the interesting thing about the Gayatri Mantra is, of course, in the slide here, I have mentioned that it is found in the Rig Veda. It is found in the Yajur Veda. The Yajur Veda is of two categories actually. It is found, so the Shukla Yajur Veda is called Vajasanayi Samhita. It is found in Mandala 3, it is the 35th shloka. It is also found in Mandala 2, 9th shloka, as well as Mandala 30, 2nd shloka. Okay, so these are the three places where it is found in the Shukla Yajurveda. In the Krishna Yajurveda, it is found in two places, which is, so the Krishna Yajurveda is called also the Taitiriya Samahita. It is found in, of course, 1.5.6.12 is looking at the kandas and mandala. So it's the way the Veda has been sectionalized. Now it is also found in the Samaveda. I have a reference which I found later before I created this site. It is found in the Samaveda, and it is not found in the Atharva Veda. Okay, the most popular reference is to the Rig Veda. Now, the interesting thing is, of course, we all know the Gayatri Mantra. I don't have to chant that out for you. But in only one place, which is in the Yajur Veda 36 point. See, there are two versions of the Gayatri Mantra. Okay. Now, I will talk about that. So this is the most popular version, in the sense this is found in 6 of the 7 references that I have made in the previous slide. So, Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Okay, this we have heard a number of times. Now, the other version of the Gayatri Mantra, which is called, now this is called Brahma Gayatri, because isme Om Bhurbhuvasvaha is there. But this is found only in one version. The common version, 6 out of 7, says Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat. Om Bhurbhuvasvaha is not added. But the more popular version is the one which has got the addition of Om Bhurbhuvasvaha. So let us look at what the shloka means. And then the shloka is a very, very simple shloka. Om Bhurbhuvasvaha can be interpreted in two ways. The traditional interpretation is Prithvi, Antariksha, and Swarga. So earth, midworld, and Akar. Swarga is Swaha. So Om Bhurbhuvasvaha. It can also be interpreted as Om matter. Prithvi is matter. Antariksha is life energy, prana, and spiritual intelligence is swaha. So these are the alternate versions. But if you look at the next line, which is the primary line in 6 out of the 7 versions, Tat Savitur Varenyam. Tat means bow, Savito is Savita, Varenyam means excellent, Bharga is light. Dhimahi is to meditate. So we meditate. You can see we meditate is the meaning of Dhimahi. Tatsavitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya is उस सवित भगवान के लाइट को जो कि excellent है, right? So the excellent splendor, of course, we have the Hindi translation. I can just pull that out. So the Hindi translation also I will tell you how it is. Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat is the 4th section that we look at. So Dhiyo Yo, Dhi is Buddhi, the same. Yo Naha, Naha is ours. Yo is Jisko. Prachodayat. Prachodayat is a term which indicates activate. So the meaning of the shloka is Om, earth, midworld, and heaven, or Om, matter, life energy, and spiritual intelligence. On the excellent splendor of the adorable Deva, Savitra, we meditate. May he activate our thoughts towards wisdom. So it simply says, हमारी जो सोच की शक्ति है, may that be actually directed towards greater wisdom and greater intelligence and greater buddhi. So it is basically something that helps us. Why is there? 1 minute.
Your sound is too low.
don't know what has happened. 1 minute, yeah. Okay, I don't know for what reason something went off, but anyway, I think we have looked at, I have only 2 of the shlokas as such. So I'll now actually, I'm having a lot of books with me. So I'm going to read from the books. So what does this mean in Hindi? Because in Hindi, the meaning comes out more strongly than in English. So I'm going to read in Hindi. So it says, Shabdarth hai, ham, devasya savituhu. So I'm going to break the Sanskrit and look at, so devasya savituhu means देव सविता के तत्वरेण्यम भर्गः, उस वरेण्य भर्ग को धीमहि ध्यान द्वारा धारण करें, यह जो नह हमारी धिय धारणाओं को प्रचोदयात् सुप्रेरित करे. So this is the simple meaning that we have. Now you may ask, if it is so simple, why is it deemed to be the heart of the Vedas? Why is it deemed to be so important? Because this is the most universal prayer. So Savita, so we must understand what is Om, we must understand what is Savita. Because once we understand Om, Bhurbhuvasvaha and Savita, then we will be able to understand the importance of the mantra. So Om is, of course, a very, very universal representative of the Brahman, and therefore it is deemed to be very, very important. So I'm just pulling out the book. So Om has got many meanings again, and Om is taken to be, A, U, and Ma. You are aware of that. A, O, Ma. These are the 3 aspects of Om. And these 3 aspects can be understood in many ways, So Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, these are one of the triads. So I'm going to talk about the triads which Om represents. It can mean Sat, Chit, and Ananda. It can mean Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. It can mean Saraswati, Lakshmi, and Parvati. It can mean Bhurbhuvasvaha, right? Which is again repeated subsequently, but Bhurbhuvasvaha is also contained within A, U, and Ma. It can mean Sthula, Sukshma, and Karana Sharira. It can mean Tamas, Rajas, and Sattva. It can mean Moha, Dukha, and Sukha. It can mean space, time, and causation. It can mean past, present, and future. It can mean birth, life, and death. It can mean Rik, Yajus, and Sama. So the 3 A, U, and Ma, all the triads that you have in the world, all the triads can be fitted into that. And Bhurbhuvasva is also the same set of triads, but in a slightly more grosser form. When you say Om, everything is there within it. When you say Bhurbhuvasva, it is like expanding on the algebraic equation. You expand the equation, so Bhurbhuvasva. Now, who is this Savita, and why is Savita important in this shloka, and how is Savita to be understood in the context of the subsequent development of Hinduism? Now, if you look at the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, Savita is an important deity. Savita is identified with the sun, and the sun is called Pratyaksha Deva. See, Vishnu, Shiva, Maheshwar, Lakshmi, Parvati, Saraswati, you may not be able to see, but you can see the sun. So our ancient rishis and munis said, while they understood the unseen, the intangible, the unmanifest that is there behind the visible universe, they said an ordinary sadhak, an ordinary Hindu, an ordinary person may not be able to see Shiva or Vishnu or Brahma in a very direct way. So the only way is through the sun god, and therefore, if you look at the 6 forms of worship that we have in the Hindu tradition, you worship Ganesha, you worship Parvati, you worship Shiva, you worship Vishnu, you worship Kumara, the second son of Shiva, and then you worship Surya Deva. So Surya worship is a very important facet, and Savita is the name given to Surya. The further quality of Savita is, Savitri in the very, very strong Vedic tradition means creator. So जिस सविता की हम बात कर रहे हैं गायत्री मंत्र में, he is the creator of the universe. Therefore, the creator of the universe is the one who has created all the multiple and manifold objects that you see around you. And therefore, if you have to understand what is the binding commonality between all these, so you have to go back to the creator. So the one who creates will know obviously what he has created. So you go back to the creator. So you may say that one way of regarding Savitra is to regard Savitra as Brahma. Then again, you will find that the argument is very circular. It simply says Brahma becomes Shiva, becomes Vishnu. And these are all mentally differentiated nomenclature. For our mind, we are differentiating. In reality, there is no differentiation. So in very, very simple terms, if we are to go back, and I'm going to share screen now with the second. So what does it mean? Maybe become aware of these three planes, whether the three planes are mind, earth, midworld, and heaven, or whether the three planes are matter, life, energy, or past, present, and future, or any of the triads that we take, then we should meditate. Now I'll come to a very interesting aspect. You see, we have heard a lot about the number of times you have to chant the Gita in a day. Somebody says you have to chant 108 times. Somebody says you have to chant 1,000 times. Somebody says, chanting it 36 times. So there are numerous traditions built around that. And if you take Pandit Sri Ram Sharma Acharya of Haridwar, he will say that he is the one who did what is called 7 or 8 Purascharanas. Purascharana is chanting the not Bhagavad Gita, the
Gayatri Mantra.
24 lakh times. Gayatri Mantra 24 lakh times. So this 24 lakh times, he has done 7 or 8 times, which takes such a long time. And quite in contrast with what Pandit Sri Ram Sharma Acharya says, is a very interesting Swami who lived in Delhi, in fact. I'm going to show one very ancient book of his. It is called Gayatri Mantra Ki Anushthan, Swami Vidyanand Dehi. Okay, this is some ancient book which I picked up. And he says very clearly, and I'm going to read it in Hindi, the way he wrote it, because translating it would, चेतावनी, धीमहि का अर्थ है हम ध्यान करें, हम धारण करें, हम ध्यान द्वारा धारण करें, हम जाप करें, ऐसा अर्थ धीमहि का नहीं है। मंत्र में ध्यान द्वारा धारण करने का विधान है। मंत्र ध्यान करके धारण करने का आदेश दे रहा है। अतः ये मंत्र का जाप करना इस मंत्र के आदेश को अवज्ञा करना है। यह मंत्र जाप का विषय नहीं है, ध्यान और धारणा का विषय है। इस मंत्र के द्वारा ध्यान करना चाहिए, जाप नहीं करना चाहिए। नाम का जाप होता है, मंत्र का अनुष्ठान होता है। यह सूत्र सदा स्मरण रखिए। नाम का जाप किया जाता है और मंत्र का अनुष्ठान किया जाता है। किसी भी मंत्र के अनुष्ठान में मंत्र का जाप नहीं किया जाता, अपितु मंत्र को ध्यान पूर्वक पुनः पुनः आवृत्ति द्वारा मंत्र विहित स्थिति को धारण किया जाता है। अनुष्ठान का अर्थ है अनुस्थान, अनुस्थिति, मंत्र के अनुसार स्थिति, मंत्र में विहित स्थिति को अपने आप में स्थापन, धारण करना, मंत्रस्थ विज्ञान को प्रत्यक्ष सिद्ध संसिद्धि करना। अनुष्ठान में मंत्र के पूर्व ओम तथा ओम भूर्भुवस्व नहीं लगाना चाहिए। यज्ञ अग्नि में आहुति देने के लिए विनियुक्त मंत्रों के पूर्व ओम व ओम भूर्भुवस्व और अंत में स्वाहा लगाया जाता है। So according to him, Om and all that is only for Havan, not for mental dharana. गायत्री मंत्र का अनुष्ठान आत्मशोधन, आत्मबोधन, दिव्यता की प्राप्ति, देव सविता के साक्षात्कार और देव सविता में समाहित होने के लिए करना चाहिए। किसी सांसारिक लाभ को दृष्टि में रखकर इस मंत्र का अनुष्ठान कदापि नहीं करना चाहिए। ये ध्रुव सत्य है कि इस मंत्र के अनुष्ठान से जहां आध्यात्मिक विभूतियां प्राप्त होती हैं, वहां सांसारिक वैभव भी प्राप्त होता है। सांसारिक वैभव आध्यात्मिक विभूति की छाया है, पर किसी सांसारिक लाभ को दृष्टि में रखकर इस मंत्र का अनुष्ठान करने से आत्महानि होती है। Okay, so this is a very contrarian point of view, because in the entire Hindu tradition, you say Gayatri Mantra ka jap karo, you never say Gayatri Mantra ka dhyan karo. But his argument is also very, very persuasive, very, very persuasive argument. And therefore, you know, we have two traditions. एक तो उसका जप करना और दिन भर रात भर जप करना. And I will actually bring out little book written where he talks about the benefit of chanting the Gayatri. It's a very, very short one, so let me read what that person has to say. Gayatri. So where is this? So therefore, so he says that, I'll just bring out one prayer for life, prayer to Supreme Lord, prayer for enlightenment. Okay. So Gayatri Mantra is also called Guru Mantra, the most important mantra of Hindu scriptures. This mantra is a panacea for any form for students and for those who desire knowledge. Reciting this mantra 1000 times daily brings miraculous results. ऐसा तो आपने बहुत पढ़ा होगा. So I think the point that is being made, and which I kind of have condensed, because I have many books on the Gayatri, and I used to go quite crazy over what to do with the Gayatri because of the immense amount of literature. So my own personal sort of journey has been that, look, you can chant it yatha shakti, depending upon the time you have, because chanting takes time. Okay. Though there is a tradition in Swami Rama's Himalayan master, they keep reducing the time by speeding the chant mentally. एक तो वाचिक होता है, एक upamshu होता है from the lips only, और एक मानसिक होता है. These are the three forms of japa. जो मानसिक जप होता है उसके लिए भी टाइम लगता है. You will take 6 seconds to chant it in your mind. Now for long mantras like the Gayatri, the chant time in the mind can also be reduced. It is called Ardhamora tradition. Ardhamora is भाई जितना टाइम आपको एक मात्रा के लिए लगता है उसको आप हाफ करें. So that means that you keep reaching greater and greater frequency of the mind. Okay. Now I have tried doing that. When I did that, my BP went up actually. So I stopped doing it because it has an impact, through, and obviously you need to do it with someone's guidance who has done it before. So my great ambition in life was हम एक तो पुरुष चरण करेंगे. But when I started doing that, I found that in the morning it was going 170, 180 because of the concentrated energy, or maybe I'm not fit enough for whatever reason. So I stopped doing that. And therefore I chant it, 36 to 100, doing 108 times is fairly decent. It is still very, very beneficial. But if you want to try doing 24 lakh japas, all the technique and masala I have, I have those books available, but you have to be physically very fit to do that, because it creates that kind of change, because you are obviously stimulating various brain centers and you don't know the kind of correlated impact. So chanting at level 108 per is decent, but you can do a lot of dhyan. The anushtan jo bola hai, that's also important. I think there's a logic behind that. So anushtan ka tarika kya bataya Swami Vidyanand Videhi ne? Let me read how he has explained to us ki anushtan kaise kiya jaye. So he says anushtan ki vidhi, and I'm going to read this out. How much time do we have? Yeah, we have enough time. Oh, it's already 12:31, but anyway, I'm going to read this. So he says, okay, कि so he says that the best time for doing Anushthan or Dhyan of the Gayatri Mantra is a 48-minute Muhurta. So 24 minutes before sunrise and 24 minutes after sunrise. That is the time to be done. And of course, we are all aware of this with whatever reading that we would have done. And then he says कि आप जो है गायत्री की 3 बारी आवृत्ति करें और उसके बाद जो भर्ग है, जो एफल्जेंस है, जो लाइट है, उसको आप अपने मन में रखें। और जब जब वो भर्ग और वो लाइट जो है कम होते जाता है, आप 3 बारी आवृत्ति करें। So you have to wait for that light that you actually visualize to reduce in intensity. And he says if you keep doing this in the Brahma Muhurta time, which is 24 minutes before and 24 minutes after sunrise, or 48-minute period में आप जो है इसका जाप मत करो, इसका अनुष्ठान करो, ध्यान करो, तो आपको बहुत लाभदायक हो।
ये
So this is what I
अनुष्ठान
had
और
to share
जाप
with
में
you
क्या
because
फर्क है? I am convinced with the Vidyanand Videh.
अनुष्ठान,
It should be जाप करने से
अनुष्ठान means
आपका
ध्यान करना।
ओके,
तो उनके लैंग्वेज में अनुष्ठान करना जो है धारणा है, ध्यान है। दैट्स हाउ ही डिफाइंस इट। और जाप करना है ओम वो आप बोलते रहिए, वो जाप करना है। जाप जो है 3 तरीके का होता है, एक तो जो वाचिक होता है जो मैं कर रहा हूँ, हाँ करेक्ट। तो दिस इज द फंडा of the Gayatri. Now you see the Gayatri is very simple, but its dynamics are very complex. In fact, okay, I think I'll have to share this in person with Sunilji Garg, because then I'll again tell him that, please edit my, public, because there's a very interesting update that I have on, some of the initiatives that we are taking. But in a public, I will not be able to share it. But one-to-one, I will be able to share with each one of you. I will definitely do that. Because there is some project that someone has lined up. I think Sunilji knows whom I'm referring to, and therefore it's along the lines of understanding what happens when you chant, because there is an auditory effect, acoustic effect. There are numerous impacts of this very, very apparently deceptively simple mantra. It is deceptively very simple. इसके फंडे बहुत ज्यादा हैं।
मतलब जाप का सिंपली मतलब है कि रिपीटेड रेसिटेशन की बात कर रहे हैं हम, और अनुष्ठान में बेसिकली हम उसके मीनिंग को फॉलो करने की सोच रहे हैं।
मीनिंग को फॉलो करने की सोच रहे हैं, और भर्गो देव के भर्ग मीन्स लाइट।
बट एक्चुअली हम लोगों के अनुष्ठान भी काफी प्रोसीजरल समझा जाता है। जैसे कर्म कांड को हमारे अनुष्ठान ही मानते हैं, इट इज ए प्रोसीजरल पार्ट। जैसे हम हवन करते हैं तो इट इज ए प्रोसीजरल पार्ट।
करेक्ट। सो अनुष्ठान ही, हाँ, सो दैट इज वन डेफिनेशन ऑफ अनुष्ठान, बट Swami Vidyanand Videhi has a very different, he has given anusthan, वो स्थान में रहे। So he's taking up the breakup of the words. अनुष्ठान is अनुस्थान। और जैसे अनुवाद क्या होता है, आप कुछ बोलते हैं और मैं उसी के पीछे दूसरे भाषा में बोलता हूँ, उसको बोलते हैं अनुवाद। तो अनुष्ठान, the meaning he is taking is, आपने उस मंत्र को अपने स्थान पे रखा है, और अगर वो उसी स्थान पे रहेगा तो अनुष्ठान हो जाता है, अनुष्ठान। So that's the meaning he has taken out. A very fascinating way of looking at the entire matter.
ये इनकी क्या बैकग्राउंड है जो स्वामी विद्यानंद जी हैं, इनके बारे में कुछ?
स्वामी विद्यानंद जी जन्म हुआ 15, हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, इनफैक्ट his ashram is there in Delhi। जन्म हुआ 15 नवंबर 1899, निधन हुआ 1978 में। वेद संस्थान के संस्थापक अध्यक्ष, वेदों के मर्मज्ञ, व्याख्याकार, चिंतक, कवि और संन्यास योगी थे। So he has established an organ. In fact, you can find it on the web also. I'll send you the link. He has established an organization. I have, in fact, क्या है? I'll tell you how I picked up this book. See, there is a very, I mean, you know, every city has a Arya Samaj center. So the Arya Samaj center that we have, so I keep going to, you know, when pre-COVID days, मेरा और कोई काम धंधा नहीं.
Sound gone.
They have, okay. Huh? Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, now.
Yes, yes, okay.
Okay, yeah, so they have a bookshop where you can buy books, but then they have one little rack in the bookshop where the old Arya Samajis donate all their books. I mean, they are all 70, 80, 90 years old. उनको जाने का time हो गया है, so they actually have donated their books, and those can be taken free of cost. और मैं पागल ठहरा किताबों का, so I'll go every now and then to pick up some free books from there. Okay, जो भी मुझे अच्छा लगा. तो whenever he sees me, he say, हाँ sir, ये आज जो है इन्होंने कुछ दिया है. So from there, I have picked up all the old books of Swami Vidyanand Dehi. So I mean, he had his own point of view, and he has a followership. He has written a number of books. So I will send, I know in one of those books, I think the name of the organization has been given very clearly. Some of his books are still available. He has got a devoted set of followers. Worth pursuing, because he's the only one who's taken a different point of view of the Gayatri Mantra. Baki sahab to are itna japo ye hoga, and that's the entire track, and that's why I shared with you, because no one else has done that. Kisi ki himmat nahi hui, because Gayatri is such a powerful mantra. With one line of thinking, usko japo तो आपका जिंदगी संपूर्ण हो जाएगा, लेकिन उसको जपो तो मेरा बीपी बढ़ जाएगा. So I had to find some other way to tackle the whole thing.
गायत्री मंत्र बेसिकली भगवान सूर्य की पूजा है, या उनसे हम इंस्पिरेशन लेने की बात है भगवान सूर्य की.
हाँ, वो हम चाहते हैं कि वो हमारी बुद्धि को इंस्पायर. बुद्धि, धी जो है वर्ड है, जो सफिक्स है धी में, बुद्धि में, वो धी को धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्, जो आपका लास्ट ऑपरेटिव फ्रेज है, धियो यो नः, आप उस बुद्धि को, हमारी उस बुद्धि को प्रचोदयात् माने इंस्पायर करें, सात्विक बनाएं. तो इसको जपते जपते आप
दूसरा नेक्स्ट टाइम, और अभी टाइम खत्म हो रहा है, जब जपा का जब करते हैं किसी भी मंत्र का, तो उसका क्या एडवांटेज होता है कि जप करने में तो कई बार माइंड डिस्ट्रैक्ट हो जाता है, वो आपका केवल हम रिपीटिशन करते रहते हैं विदाउट अंडरस्टैंडिंग द थिंग्स.
नहीं, आपको अंडरस्टैंड करना चाहिए. एक लेवल पे अंडरस्टैंड किए बिना मंत्र का इफेक्ट नहीं होता है. लेकिन फिर भी क्या होता है, कई मंत्र ऐसे होते हैं जो सिर्फ अपने अकूस्टिक प्रॉपर्टीज से बेनिफिट दिलाते हैं. So अगर आप, if you can combine the acoustic properties, which is the proper uchcharan of the mantra, along with understanding the mantra, then it has a double impact.
Okay. One query.
Yeah.
ये वैसे तो I have some experience कि जो आर्ट ऑफ लिविंग में जो सहज समाधि प्रोसेस है, उसमें भी मंत्र का जप होता है, जिस तरह से स्वामी विद्यानंद जी ने बताया, मोर और लेस उन्हीं लाइंस पे रहता है. बट ये जो मेथड बताया गया, क्या इसका आपको कोई पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस है, और डू यू रेकमेंड कि हम लोग ऐसा करें?
बिल्कुल यार, मेरे को पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस है. So I used to at the point in time when I gave up the practice of chanting for 1,000 mantras a day, the next thing I took up was to take up between I mean, given the time of the year, आपका जो है सनराइज का टाइम दिया जाता है, तो मैं सुबह उठ के मैं उसको करता था. So it is beneficial. In fact, I would say that whatever I'm able to say now is because गायत्री मंत्र, नहीं तो कहाँ बुद्धि चलती है हमारी. उसका इम्पैक्ट है, अभी डेफिनेटली है.
एक मैं करेक्शन करना चाहूंगा. सुनील रस्तोगी, आप कह रहे हैं ना कि गायत्री मंत्र पूजा है. एक्चुअली पूजा में हम लॉर्ड की प्रेज की खाली बात करते हैं. गायत्री मंत्र में अपने आप को इम्प्रूव करने की कामना भी की गई है. तो धीमे धियो यो न प्रचोदयात् में तो अपने आप को इम्प्रूव करने की कामना की गई, इसलिए ये इम्पोर्टेंट है.
सूर्य भगवान को ध्यान
करते ऋग्वेदा पूजा का पार्ट ज्यादा करता है, मतलब रिचुअल्स का और सब चीजों का पार्ट हम वेदों में ज्यादा देखते हैं. बट उसके साथ जो ये इम्पोर्टेंट पार्ट है कि एक्सपेक्टेशन टू इम्प्रूव आवरसेल्व्स, वो इसको इम्पोर्टेंट बनाता है.
एक्चुअली वन स्मॉल करेक्शन. तो क्या है, ऋग्वेद में सिर्फ मंत्र हैं, तो क्या किया, उन मंत्रों को मिला के हमने रिचुअल बनाया। मंत्र नहीं बोलते कि आप रिचुअल करो, करेक्ट? तो मंत्र तो मंत्र है,
मंत्र
करेक्ट?
तो मंत्र है।
तो मंत्र तो मंत्र हैं। सो देयरफॉर I mean, so this entire, I mean, मेरे पास इतने सारे किताब हैं of the Rigveda which looks at the मंत्र, मंत्र का क्या मीनिंग है। अब इतने सारे मंत्र थे कि उन सबको कैसे भाई, हाउ डू यू प्रोपगेट इट? सो यू पुट इट इनटू, ठीक है, शादी के लिए ये है, पुत्र पाने के लिए ये है, युद्ध में जीतने के लिए ये है। सो यू मेड इट इनटू अ काइंड ऑफ, यू ब्रोक इट डाउन and gave it an application format. So the application format of the Rig Veda is what is called ritual. Correct? So we need to understand.
हाँ, नहीं, बट
So one
मुझे ये
is
लगता था कि अगर एक्चुअली हम किसी को समझाते हैं कि ये तो दूसरे की प्रेस की बात है, तो कभी कभी कन्विंसिंग नहीं लगता कि काहे को हम तारीफ किए जा रहे हैं। हमारा पॉइंट ये है कि इट इज ऑल सेल्फ इंप्रूवमेंट गाइडेंस भी है सारी
correct,
चीज,
correct.
और
Yeah,
इसीलिए हम
yeah,
गीता
no,
भी पढ़ रहे हैं। गीता पूरी तरह से सेल्फ इंप्रूवमेंट की पूरी डॉक्यूमेंट है ये।
absolutely, absolutely, 100% correct. So I think on that count we should end today's session because there are
Okay.
just 5
Thank
minutes
you.
left,
राइट,
and hopefully this was of value to you in one way
You
or the
definitely.
other. Okay. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
Thank you.
Take care. All the best.